Yo, what's going on? Marwin. Today we're making Brazilian Feijoada, which is a meat and black bean stew. Emphasis on the word meat, mainly pork. So I got a few different choice cuts of pork that I like, that I added to my stew. And add a slight bit of a twist, add a little Caribbean vibe to it. That's kind of how I do, fusing recipes or fusing cuisines from around the world. Before we go any further and get into this dish, I would want to invite you to hit that red subscribe button, get updates weekly as I post new recipes. Thanks, and let's get to cooking. I'm using dry beans, so I soak these overnight in water and then rinse them cleanly and clearly. Set these beans to the side until you're ready to start cooking the beans. I'm going to use this orange as a kind of a pinwheel, sticking it with cloves. The orange will act to keep the cloves from dropping into the stew, which we don't want because cloves are very hard and woody and would not be pleasurable to bite into. So I'm just adding these. I got about 10 cloves that I'll puncture and stick into the orange. And this is going to be a flavor bomb for the stew. Orange will kind of help it brighten the stew, right? Because we're going to be using a lot of pork. There's going to be a lot of fat in there, and so having the citrus zest will kind of help offset some of that fattiness and add some balance to the dish. Then the cloves smell great. They will add like a really kind of cool aroma to the stew, which I think you'll dig. And as we cook, we'll continue to add layers of flavor and different things to make this a really good dish that's elevated from a flavor perspective beyond kind of what you just normally cook on an everyday basis. So there it is. Look at that. And it's kind of cool, right? Yeah, I'm digging it. I don't know what we're gonna call that, but yeah, it looks kind of cool to me. We're gonna work with that. Set that to the side. I'm good to go now, so I'm gonna start prepping my beans. I'm gonna add the orange plus the pork. I got ham hocks is my kind of main seasoning, plus I have some pancetta bacon, some smoked sausage. I use smoked pork sausage, but hey, you can use beef if you want. Then I add some chicken stock, plus I have some water that I'm going to add. And you want to add enough liquid so pretty much the beans are fully submerged. You want the water to really set above the beans. And eventually, as you start to cook, the meat will shrink some and it'll start to sink into the pot with the beans and start to really flavor. I also have some bay leaves that I'm going to add during the cooking time. I'm going to simmer these for a nice long time, at least an hour and a half. You can check the tenderness as you go to decide whether or not it's time to pull those off or not. But I love the aroma that I'm working with, and hey, it's a really, really fun time to be in the kitchen with these. I forgot, I'm going to add a little bit of rum or Brazilian rum cachaça to my dish, and that's going to cook inside the pot and add even more flavor and make this dish more festive and just a really fun, enjoyable dish. Now that my beans are cooked for the most part, I'm going to take the meat out, all of the meat, and then I'm going to cut it up, and then I'll eventually add it back in. But be careful because obviously this is hot, and so you don't want to burn your hands or spill anything. So take your time, be careful. You probably should use tongs, but I'm a knucklehead and I was moving ahead of time and just didn't take the time to do it. But now that I got pretty much all of those ingredients out, I can chop them up, slice the sausage up into smaller bite-sized pieces, and then I'm gonna do the same for the ham hocks and the pancetta as well. So that's it, for the meat. And this is all gonna go back into the stew as we cook later. But you see I got a big pile of goodness. Feel free to sample some of the good stuff before you finish the dish. But hey, that's it. And so now I can start working on my bacon. with the bacon, you don't want to cook it fully down to a crisp. You really just want to render the fat. Maybe cook the bacon to about 3/4 done, because you got to add them back to the pot later, and so they're going to continue to cook. I got my onions ready to, and garlic ready to cook and saute in that rendered fat. Again, we're trying to build layers of flavor, and this is going to add a lot, right? So I got my aromatics with the onions and the garlic. I'm going to add all of that pork meat back into it, along with the bacon and the onions. Look, this is going to be sweet. This is coming together. So this is where I add my twist. I have some Trinidad green seasoning, adding a little bit of the Caribbean to the dish. For me, this is a seasoning base. It opens up the dish because there's a lot of fat, a lot of heaviness in the dish, and so you want to add some light elements to it as well. So now I'm going to start to work on my pork belly, which I marinated in some cassoulet to represent Guyana. Again, more Caribbean than anything else. So I got a pork belly that marinated overnight, and then I'm just going to sear it in the pan on both sides about 3 to 4 minutes. And it's going to be cooked for the most part, but again, this is another one of those meats that can finish inside the stew when I add it all back to the pot. So, I'm going to cut it into bite-sized chunks. You can decide, how big you want them. I try to cook them as evenly as possible in terms of the cut, because I want them to cook at the same rate. And so it's best to kind of have similar sized pieces as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now I got pretty much all of my meat inside the stew. The pork belly, the bacon, the sausage, the hocks. So imagine you got all of this pork dish, so you're going to have some fat in there, and so you might want to skim away any of the excess fat to make the dish like more enjoyable, especially from a mouthfeel. Like a lot of fat could be greasy and just not really fun to have that sitting in your mouth. And so I try to drain away any of the excess fat as possible. So after this is cooked for another 30 minutes, an hour or so, you notice that like the liquid has reduced quite a bit. The flavors have concentrated. The beans have softened, become a little more creamy, but not so creamy that the texture is gone. So now I want to, again, add a little more brightness. So I have some orange juice to add back to the beans, about a half a cup, and I'm done. I want to add that orange juice right after the last 5-10 minutes of cooking. Just enough to open up the dish and brighten up, and you can serve it as is. This has a great aroma. It looks great. It's going to taste great. And it's quite filling. This is the main dish. This is not your typical bean side dish because it leans heavy on the meat. And that's it. You got a taste of Brazil right in your house, in your own kitchen. Don't forget, if you like the dish, leave me a like or comment. Most importantly, hit that red subscribe button, and you get more recipes every time I upload. Thanks. Peace out.